The docking bay was quiet except for the hum of machinery and the distant echo of metal footsteps. Tom, a human maintenance worker, had just finished fixing a loose panel near the airlock when a soft alarm rang. It was the signal for an incoming ship. He expected to see a cargo vessel or a supply shuttle. But when the bay doors opened, a small damaged craft drifted inside. Its surface was scorched, with deep burns along the hull. One of its wings hung at an odd angle as if it had been struck during battle. The landing gear touched the floor with a slow metallic groan. Tom stepped closer, wiping his hands on his work shirt. The ship's hatch hissed open, releasing a faint mist into the air. Out of the shadowed doorway, a tall figure stepped forward. She was unlike anyone Tom had seen before. Her skin shimmered faintly, as if tiny crystals lay beneath the surface, and her long hair glinted in shades of silver and pale blue. Her posture was straight, but her movements were slow, careful, as though every step hurt. This was Princess Lyra of Zereth. Though Tom did not know her name yet, two alien attendants followed her, their faces hidden behind metallic veils. They whispered to each other in a language Tom did not understand. Instead of guiding her toward help, they stopped near the hatch. As if waiting for someone else to take responsibility, a group of alien officials stood nearby. Wearing the fine robes of diplomats, they saw her. They recognized her. Yet they said nothing and did nothing. Their eyes shifted away, their mouths pressed into thin lines. One of them turned and walked toward the exit without a word. Tom felt a strange discomfort in his chest. He had worked on the station long enough to know that visitors usually received a warm welcome, especially important ones. But here, the air was heavy with silence. A medical team arrived, but their movement was slow, almost reluctant. They brought a stretcher, yet none of them smiled or spoke politely. Tom watched as they scanned Lyra's body and exchanged glances. Without asking if she could walk, they told her to sit on the stretcher. She obeyed, though her hands trembled as she gripped the edge. As they began to wheel her toward the medical wing, Tom noticed something else. The alien attendants who had come with her were already heading back toward the shuttle. They did not even look in her direction. Tom returned to his tools, but his mind stayed with the injured alien. Later, while repairing a vent in the corridor, he saw the medical team again. They were taking the stretcher into a private room. The door closed with a soft click, and the team left without speaking to her. Through the small glass window, Tom saw her sitting upright on the bed. Her eyes were half closed, her expression calm yet lonely. He had never met a princess before, but he did not expect one to look so abandoned. That evening, the docking bay grew quiet again. Tom stayed late to finish his shift. A few workers passed by, whispering about the visitor. They say she is cursed, one alien said. They say she brings danger to anyone who helps her. Another replied. Tom frowned. It sounded like superstition, the kind of thing that had no place on a modern space station. But the tone of their voices told him they believed it. The next day, Tom walked past the medical wing on his way to check the air circulation unit. The door to Lyra's room was open a little. Inside, she was trying to sit up, reaching toward a small table where a cup of water stood just out of reach. She winced, her hand trembling from effort. A nurse sat at the desk nearby, scrolling through a data screen. Lyra's voice was soft but clear. "May I have the water?" she asked. The nurse did not look up. She tapped her screen again, as if she had not heard. Lyra lowered her hand slowly and leaned back against the bed. Tom hesitated. He knew it was not his place, but the sight of her struggling stirred something inside him. He stepped inside quietly, took the cup, and offered it to her. Her eyes widened in surprise. They were a deep shade of violet, with tiny silver sparks near the center. She accepted the cup with both hands and drank slowly. When she finished, she gave him a small nod. "Thank you," she said. Tom nodded back. "You're welcome." The nurse glanced at him, but said nothing. Returning to her screen, Tom left the room, but the image of her tired yet dignified face stayed in his mind. By the time his shift ended, he had already decided something. He would check on her again the next day, not because she was a princess or an alien dignitary, but because she was alone, and no one deserved to be left alone when they were hurt. Outside the wide station windows, the stars drifted by in endless silence, somewhere out there. Battles were fought, empires rose and fell, and great leaders shaped the galaxy. But here in this quiet corner of space, a single injured princess sat forgotten, and one human had noticed. The station's medical wing was usually filled with quiet conversation, the soft sound of footsteps, and the faint hum of machines. But the room where Princess Lyra rested was different. It was silent. Even the nurses spoke in short replies. When they entered, and they did not stay long, Tom passed by that corridor the next morning. Carrying his toolkit, he slowed his steps when he saw the door to her room open again. Lyra was sitting up on the bed, her back straight, her hands resting on her lap. The pale light from the ceiling lamps made her crystal-like skin shine faintly inside. Two alien officials stood near the foot of her bed. They were dressed in fine robes and wore the insignia of the Zirith royal court. Tom paused just outside the doorway, pretending to check the wall panel while listening. "We have no choice," one official said in a low voice. "Your presence here brings too much attention. The other clans are already watching us. If we are seen visiting you, it will be taken as a sign of support. That is dangerous." Lyra's expression did not change. "I am your princess," she said calmly. "You serve the crown." The other officials shifted uncomfortably. "We serve the crown, yes, but we must protect ourselves. Until the investigation is over, you will have to manage without our public assistance. We cannot be seen near you." Without waiting for her reply, they gave short bows and left. Their footsteps faded quickly down the hall. Tom saw the faintest flicker in her eyes before she lowered her gaze. It was not anger, but a quiet disappointment. She lifted her hand toward the table again, this time reaching for a small device, but stopped halfway and let her arm fall. He stepped into the room. "Morning," he said simply. Lyra looked up. "You again," she said softly. "I work nearby." Tom explained. "Just wanted to see if you needed anything." Her lips curved into the smallest smile. "I would like some water." He picked up the glass from the table and handed it to her. She drank slowly, as though savoring the simple. Kindness. After a moment, she said, "The humans here seem busy, but they do not avoid me. Your people do not believe in curses." Tom frowned. "Curses? No. We believe in fixing problems, not running from them." Her eyes studied his face for a moment before she nodded. "That is good." He wanted to ask more about what had happened to her, but the nurse entered with a tray of food. The meal was small, a bowl of thin broth and a slice of bread. The nurse placed it on the table without a word and left. Lyra glanced at the food but did not touch it. Tom noticed and asked, "Is it not good?" She shook her head. "It is not the food of my home. But that is not the reason. I have little appetite." He hesitated, then said, "If you need something else, I can ask the kitchen. Humans make a lot of different meals." Her expression softened again. "That is kind of you." Over the next few days, Tom kept finding reasons to pass by her room. Sometimes he tightened bolts in the corridor or checked the ventilation system. Even when it did not need repairs, each time, Lyra greeted him with quiet politeness. Through their short conversations, Tom learned small things about her home. Zirith was a world of towering crystal spires, where sunlight refracted through the air and painted the streets in colors. The royal family lived in the tallest spire, said to be older than recorded history. Lyra spoke of it without pride, but with a gentle fondness. She never spoke of the attack directly. But Tom began to piece together the story. An explosion had damaged her personal shuttle during a diplomatic journey. She had been found, drifting in space, and brought here. Instead of a rescue filled with relief and reunion, she had been met with silence. The station's alien community seemed to treat her presence as an inconvenience. When Tom asked a fellow worker why, the man shrugged. "They say being close to her brings trouble. Some believe she carries bad luck now. Others think helping her will anger her enemies." Tom could not understand it. On Earth, when someone was injured, people helped without thinking of the risks. Here, fear and politics seemed stronger than loyalty. One evening, Tom visited her again after finishing his work. She was sitting near the window, looking out at the endless stars. "Do you miss your home?" he asked. "Yes," she replied, her voice quiet. "But I'm not sure if it misses me." Her words stayed in his mind long after he left. He had met many travelers at the station, but none who seemed so completely alone. That night, as the lights dimmed across the station, Tom made a decision. He would not let her be forgotten. Even if others avoided her, he would make sure she had someone to speak to, someone who cared enough to listen. He did not know it yet, but this choice would lead him into danger far beyond his usual life of fixing broken panels and cleaning air filters, and it would change the future of more than just one princess. The days passed slowly on the station. The steady hum of the engines and the routine sounds of doors sliding open and closing created a background rhythm that rarely changed. But for Tom, something had changed. His daily visits to Lyra's room had become the part of the day he looked forward to the most each time he entered. She greeted him with a small nod or a faint smile. At first, their conversations were short. She asked about the station, and he answered simply. He asked if she needed water, and she would accept with quiet gratitude. But slowly, the words between them grew longer. One afternoon, Tom brought her a small box. Inside was a piece of bread he had baked in the small kitchen used by the maintenance crew. It was warm and smelled faintly of cinnamon. "I thought you might like something different," he said. Lyra looked at the bread as though it were a rare gift. She took a small bite, and her expression softened. "It is sweet," she said. "Our food is not like this." "What is your food like?" Tom asked. She leaned back against the pillows and thought for a moment. "On Zereth, we eat from the crystal gardens. The plants grow between the glass-like roots of the great spires. Their colors are bright, and their taste changes with the light. We have fruits that taste like the morning sun and leaves that taste like the evening air." Tom imagined it. "Sounds like your world is always glowing." "In a way," she said. "But light can hide shadows." Her voice was calm, but Tom sensed there was a meaning beneath her words. He wanted to ask, but before he could, a nurse entered and gave him a sharp look. It was the same look people gave when they thought someone was in a place they did not belong. Tom nodded to Lyra and left, but her words stayed with him. The next day, Tom found a small image projector in the station's storage. It was an older model, but it still worked. After fixing its power cell, he brought it to her room. "What is this?" she asked. "Something to make the walls less empty," he said. He turned it on, and a picture of a green meadow appeared, with tall grass swaying under a blue sky. "This is Earth," Tom said. "Where I grew up. My village was small. In the spring, the air smelled like flowers, and in the winter, the ground was white with snow." Lyra's eyes followed the moving image. "I have never seen snow," she said. "It is cold, but beautiful." Tom replied, "It makes the world quiet. Even loud places become peaceful." She smiled faintly. "Perhaps one day I will see it." They began to exchange stories. Lyra told him about the crystal spires and the way sunlight broke into thousands of colors at dawn. She described the great festival of Zereth, when the entire city sang in harmony with the wind. In return, Tom told her about rainstorms on Earth, the smell of wet earth, and the sound of water running down the rooftops. He spoke about the small river where he used to fish with his father. Their talks made the room feel warmer. The air no longer carried the heavy silence it once had. Even the nurses, though still distant, noticed the change. One evening, Tom found her standing near the window, her hands resting lightly on the railing. She was looking at the stars. "You should be resting," he said. "I have rested enough," she replied. "It is strange. I have traveled among the stars, yet now they feel far away." Tom stood beside her. "Maybe it is because you are not where you want to be." She glanced at him. "And where do you want to be?" He thought about it. "I do not know, but I think it is less about the place and more about the people you are with." For a moment, neither spoke. The stars beyond the glass seemed endless from that day. Tom noticed Lyra's posture change. She still moved carefully. Her injuries not fully healed, but there was more strength in her steps. Sometimes he caught her humming softly in a language he did not know, still outside her room. The whispers about her continued. People spoke of danger, of bad luck, of political trouble. Tom ignored them. He had seen her kindness and her quiet strength, and he could not match those rumors with the person he knew. One afternoon, as Tom left her room, an alien attendant approached him. The attendant's voice was low and unfriendly. "You should not spend so much time with her," he said. "It will bring you trouble." Tom met his gaze calmly. "She is injured and alone. Helping her is the right thing to do." The attendant shook his head and walked away without another word. That night, Tom sat in his small cabin, thinking about those words. He knew there might be truth in them. Trouble often followed those who stood beside someone others feared. But the idea of leaving Lyra alone was worse. The next morning, he brought her a small plant from the maintenance greenhouse. It had bright green leaves and a single white flower. "What is this?" she asked. "It is called a moonflower." He said, "It blooms at night. I thought you might like something that opens when the rest of the station is quiet." She touched the petals gently. "It is beautiful. Thank you." And in that moment, Tom knew something had changed. This was no longer just about kindness. Somewhere between the stories, the shared silences, and the small gifts, a bond had formed. It was unlikely, unexpected, and unspoken, but it was real. Neither of them knew it yet, but that bond would soon be tested in ways neither could imagine. The station's night cycle was calm. Most of the bright hallway lights were dimmed, leaving only a soft glow along the floors to guide late travelers. Tom was working in one of the lower maintenance corridors, checking the main power conduits. The air smelled faintly of warm metal and oil. He crouched beside an open panel, tightening a loose connector, when he heard faint footsteps echoing in the distance. It was unusual at this hour. Few people came down to this section unless they worked here. Tom paused and listened. The footsteps stopped. Then a quiet voice spoke. It was an alien language, deep and sharp in tone. A second voice answered, softer but urgent. Curiosity and caution mixed in his mind. He moved slowly toward the sound, staying close to the wall. Round the corner, two figures stood near an emergency door. Their robes marked them as members of the Zereth delegation. The taller one spoke first. "The human is always near her. This is a problem." The shorter replied, "We cannot act while he is watching, but she will not be safe forever. The orders remain. The task must be completed before the next council meeting." Tom's chest tightened. He did not need to understand every word to know they were talking about Lyra. His instincts told him these were not friendly words. He waited until they walked away before stepping out. The station felt different now. The quiet no longer seemed peaceful. It felt heavy, like something dangerous was moving through it. Instead of returning to his cabin, Tom went to Lyra's room. The door was closed, but the small window showed her sitting at the table. The moonflower beside her, glowing softly in the low light. He knocked lightly. She looked up and nodded for him to enter. "You should be resting," she said. "I was working," Tom replied, stepping inside. "But I heard something. I think someone may be planning to harm you." Lyra's gaze did not change, but her hand stilled. "I am not surprised," she said after a pause. "The attack that injured me was not an accident. Someone wants me gone. That someone has influence, and influence is hard to fight." Tom pulled up a chair. "Then we need to tell the station security." She shook her head. "Without proof, they will not act. And proof is not easy to find when the enemy hides behind polite words and political rules." Her calmness surprised him. She had accepted danger as if it were a constant shadow. But Tom could not. "Then I will find proof," he said. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, he saw a flicker of something, perhaps doubt, perhaps hope. "Why would you take such a risk for me?" she asked. "Because you deserve to be safe," he replied simply. The next day, Tom began to pay more attention to the people around her room. He noticed the same robed figures passing by more than once, though they never went inside. They spoke briefly to the nurses, who would then leave with unreadable expressions. At night, Tom studied the station's maintenance maps. He knew the location of every camera and every blind spot. His work gave him access to areas most people never saw. It also gave him the ability to adjust the camera angles without anyone questioning it. By the third night, he had set several cameras to quietly record parts of the corridor near Lyra's room. He also placed a small sound recorder inside an unused panel near the medical wing entrance. 2 days later, while checking the recordings, Tom found what he was looking for. The two robed figures stood in the corridor, speaking quietly. The shorter one said, "Tonight, when the human is off duty, the order will be complete." Tom's hands clenched. That was enough to prove danger was real. He copied the file to a portable device and locked it inside his toolkit. He went straight to the human station commander, a tall woman with sharp eyes named Captain Mara. She listened in silence as Tom played the recording. When it ended, she leaned back in her chair. "This is serious," she said. "If this is true, the princess is in immediate danger. I will assign a human security detail to guard her quarters. She will be moved to a secure section until we sort this out." Tom felt relief. "Thank you, Captain." That evening, when he told Lyra, she listened without interrupting. When he finished, she looked at the glowing moonflower and said quietly, "It seems the shadows have stepped closer. But they will not reach you," Tom said firmly. She gave a small nod. "You may be right, or perhaps you have just made yourself their new target." Tom had thought about that. It did not matter. What mattered was that she would be safe. When the human security team arrived, they moved quickly and without delay. 2 guards stood outside her room, while others escorted her to a secured human-controlled sector of the station. As they walked, Tom noticed the 2 robed figures watching from a distance. Their faces showed no emotion, but their stillness felt like a silent warning. That night, Tom could not sleep. The image of them standing there, unblinking, stayed in his mind. He knew the threat had not truly ended. It had only been pushed back. And he also knew that the closer he stayed to Lyra, the more likely he was to be caught in whatever storm was coming. Yet as he thought about her quiet dignity, her small smile when he brought her the moonflower, and the way she had begun to trust him, he knew there was no turning back. The danger had returned, but so had his resolve. The station's night cycle was calm. Most of the bright hallway lights were dimmed, leaving only a soft glow along the floors to guide late travelers. Tom was working in one of the lower maintenance corridors, checking the main power conduits. The air smelled faintly of warm metal and oil. He crouched beside an open panel, tightening a loose connector, when he heard faint footsteps echoing in the distance. It was unusual at this hour. Few people came down to this section unless they worked here. Tom paused and listened. The footsteps stopped. Then, a quiet voice spoke. It was an alien language, deep and sharp in tone. A second voice answered, softer but urgent. Curiosity and caution mixed in his mind. He moved slowly toward the sound, staying close to the wall. Round the corner, 2 figures stood near an emergency door. Their robes marked them as members of the Zerith delegation. The taller one spoke first. "The human is always near her. This is a problem." The shorter replied, "We cannot act while he is watching, but she will not be safe forever. The orders remain. The task must be completed before the next council meeting." Tom's chest tightened. He did not need to understand every word to know they were talking about Lyra. His instincts told him these were not friendly words. He waited until they walked away before stepping out. The station felt different now. The quiet no longer seemed peaceful. It felt heavy, like something dangerous was moving through it. Instead of returning to his cabin, Tom went to Lyra's room. The door was closed, but the small window showed her sitting at the table, the moonflower beside her, glowing softly in the low light. He knocked lightly. She looked up and nodded for him to enter. "You should be resting," she said. "I was working," Tom replied, stepping inside. "But I heard something. I think someone may be planning to harm you." Lyra's gaze did not change, but her hand stilled. "I am not surprised," she said after a pause. "The attack that injured me was not an accident. Someone wants me gone." That someone has influence, and influence is hard to fight. Tom pulled up a chair. Then we need to tell the station security. She shook her head. Without proof, they will not act. And proof is not easy to find when the enemy hides behind polite words and political rules. Her calmness surprised him. She had accepted danger as if it were a constant shadow. But Tom could not. Then I will find proof, he said. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, he saw a flicker of something, perhaps doubt, perhaps hope. Why would you take such a risk for me? She asked. Because you deserve to be safe. He replied simply. The next day, Tom began to pay more attention to the people around her room. He noticed the same road figures passing by more. Then once, though they never went inside, they spoke briefly to the nurses, who would then leave with unreadable expressions. At night, Tom studied the station's maintenance maps. He knew the location of every camera and every blind spot. His work gave him access to areas most people never saw. It also gave him the ability to adjust the camera angles. Without anyone questioning it. By the third night, he had set several cameras to quietly record parts of the corridor near Lyra's room. He also placed a small sound recorder inside an unused panel near the medical wing entrance. 2 days later, while checking the recordings, Tom found what he was looking for. The 2 robed figures stood in the corridor, speaking quietly. The shorter one said, "Tonight, when the human is off duty, the order will be complete." Tom's hands clenched. That was enough to prove danger was real. He copied the file to a portable device and locked it inside his toolkit. He went straight to the human station commander, a tall woman with sharp eyes named Captain Mara. She listened in silence as Tom played the recording. When it ended, she leaned back in her chair. "This is serious," she said. "If this is true, the princess is in immediate danger. I will assign a human security detail to guard her quarters. She will be moved to a secure section until we sort this out." Tom felt relief. "Thank you, Captain." That evening, when he told Lyra, she listened without interrupting. When he finished, she looked at the glowing moonflower and said quietly, "It seems the shadows have stepped closer. But they will not reach you," Tom said firmly. She gave a small nod. "You may be right, or perhaps you have just made yourself their new target." Tom had thought about that. It did not matter. What mattered was that she would be safe. When the human security team arrived, they moved quickly and without delay. 2 guards stood outside her room, while others escorted her to a secured human-controlled sector of the station. As they walked, Tom noticed the 2 robed figures watching from a distance. Their faces showed no emotion, but their stillness felt like a silent warning. That night, Tom could not sleep. The image of them standing there, unblinking, stayed in his mind. He knew the threat had not truly ended. It had only been pushed back. And he also knew that the closer he stayed to Lyra, the more likely he was to be caught in whatever storm was coming. Yet as he thought about her quiet dignity, her small smile when he brought her the moonflower, and the way she had begun to trust him, he knew there was no turning back. The danger had returned, but so had his resolve. The day of the council meeting arrived. The station was unusually busy, with representatives from several worlds walking through its halls. The air felt tense, as if everyone knew that important decisions would be made. Lyra had spent the morning in her secure quarters, preparing for her speech. Human guards stood outside her door, watching the passing crowds with sharp eyes. Inside, Tom stood by the table where the moonflower still bloomed, its petals open wide. "You are sure you are ready for this?" he asked. Lyra adjusted the thin silver band around her wrist. "I am as ready as I can be. Words are my weapon now, and I must use them carefully." Tom nodded. "The human sector is with you, and I think more people will be after today." When the time came, 2 guards escorted them to the council chamber. The chamber was a wide circular room with high ceilings and rows of seats arranged in tiers. Each seat was marked with the symbol of a different world. At the center stood a raised platform for the speaker. As Lyra stepped onto the platform, the room grew quiet. Many alien representatives avoided her eyes. Others watched with open curiosity. She began to speak in a calm, steady voice. "Honored council members, I stand before you not as a ruler, but as a survivor. My journey here was marked by an attack meant to end my life. It failed, but not because of my own power. It failed because someone chose to act when others would not. Tom stood near the side wall, listening. Every word carried weight. Lyra continued. When I arrived on the station, I was met with silence from those I expected to help me. Fear and suspicion turned friends into strangers. But a human worker, someone with no rank, no political duty to me, chose to bring me water when I was thirsty. He chose to speak when I was ignored. He chose to protect me when danger came again. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some leaned forward, listening more closely now. I tell you this because it shows something important, Lyra said. Humanity's strength is not in weapons or wealth, but in its will to act, in its refusal to turn away from what is right. This is the kind of ally my people should value. Tom could see a change in the room. A few alien leaders who had once looked away were now watching her with new expressions. I asked the council not to be ruled by fear, Lyra said, her voice stronger. Fear allows shadows to grow, but light, even the smallest light, can guide us. And I have seen that light here. When she stepped back from the platform, the room remained silent for a moment. Then a few representatives began to clap. The sound grew, spreading across the chamber until even those who had been silent joined in. After the meeting, reporters from different worlds gathered outside the chamber, sending her words across the station and beyond. By the evening, the change in atmosphere was clear. In the corridors, some aliens nodded politely when Lyra passed. A few even offered quiet greetings. She accepted each with calm grace. Back in her quarters, Tom sat with her at the table. You changed some minds today, he said. Not all, she replied, but enough to begin a path forward. Tom smiled. That's more than most could do in your place. The next day, messages began to arrive from Zereth citizens living on other worlds. Some expressed regret for the way she had been treated. Others offered support, promising to speak in her favor to their leaders. One message was from an elder of her people, a respected figure who rarely spoke in political matters. It simply read, You have shown the courage of the Spire. Even Captain Mara, who was not easily impressed, visited Lyra. You have gained more allies in one day than months of negotiation usually bring, she said. And you have given this station a reminder of why our work matters. Still, Tom knew the danger had not fully passed. Those who had tried to silence her might have failed, but they would not disappear. Political enemies had long memories. That evening, as they looked out at the stars together, Lyra said, Your people's help has done more than protect my life. It has shown me that trust can come from unexpected places. Tom glanced at her. I think that's how real trust works. You don't plan it. It just happens when someone chooses to stand with you. For the first time since arrival, Lyra's smile was not faint or careful. It was real, warm, and unguarded. It was clear to Tom that something important had shifted. She was no longer just the injured alien princess who had been shunned. She was now a voice that people listened to, and she had made it clear that humans were part of her vision for the future. What neither of them knew was that this new attention would bring fresh challenges, and the choices they made next would decide not just their futures, but the fate of more than one world. The days after the council meeting were filled with movement. The station seemed livelier than before. Delegates from different worlds met in private rooms, voices rising and falling behind closed doors. Reports of Lyra's speech continued to spread across the communication networks, reaching far beyond the station itself. In the human sector, guards remained posted outside her quarters, but their presence now felt less like a wall of protection and more like a symbol of trust. Visitors began to arrive, some bringing messages, others offering small gifts from their home worlds. One morning, Lyra received a formal transmission from the Zereth Royal Court. It was brief but clear. A delegation would arrive in 3 days to escort her home. Tom was in her room when she read the message. She set the device down gently. It seems my people have decided I'm worth their attention again, she said. Tom studied her expression. Do you think they truly mean it? I think they mean to show the galaxy that they stand by their princess she replied. Whether that feeling is real or only for appearance, I do not yet know. Over the next days, preparations for the delegation's arrival filled the station's schedule. Decorations were hung in the main docking bay, and a ceremony was planned for the formal meeting between the humans and the Zirith. Captain Mara worked closely with both sides, making sure security would be flawless. On the third day, the Zirith delegation ship arrived. It was a shining vessel shaped like a curved blade, its surface reflecting the station's lights in silver and blue. As it docked, the air inside the bay seemed to grow sharper. Filled with the weight of many watching eyes, Lyra walked into the bay flanked by human guards. She wore a simple but elegant robe in the colors of her home world, the silver band on. Her wrist caught the light as she moved. Tom followed a few steps behind. Feeling the importance of the moment, at the front of the delegation stood Lord Karen, a tall figure with a voice as smooth as polished crystal. He bowed deeply to Lyra. Princess, your presence has been greatly missed on Zirith. Her reply was steady. If that is true, then I trust my absence has been felt in more than words. There was a faint pause before Karen smiled politely. We are here to bring you home and to open discussions with our new allies. The words were formal, but Tom could tell there was more to them. The ceremony began. Captain Mara and Lord Karen exchanged greetings, and representatives from other worlds stood as witnesses. The agreement to begin talks for a human Zirith alliance was signed, marking the first step toward official cooperation. When it was Lyra's turn to speak, she stood before both groups and said, "The galaxy is wide, yet it is our choices that decide whether we stand apart or together. I have seen fear turn friends into strangers, but I have also seen kindness break through walls that politics could not. The humans have shown me that alliances are built not only on agreements, but on the will to act when it matters most." Her words carried across the bay, and even those who had once doubted her seemed to listen closely. After the ceremony, as the crowd dispersed, Lyra turned to Tom. "It is strange," she said. "When I first came here, I was alone. Now I leave with more allies than I could have imagined." Tom smiled. "That's because you earned them." The delegation prepared to depart the next day. But before she left, Lyra made one last request. She asked for a guard unit composed of both Zirith and human soldiers. It was a bold step, and one that would be noticed across the galaxy. Captain Mara agreed, seeing the value in the gesture. When the time came to board her ship, Lyra stood at the base of the ramp, looking at Tom. "You have done more than protect me," she said. "You have shown me what trust can be. I hope this is not goodbye." Tom gave a small nod. "Wherever you go, remember there will always be someone here who will stand by you." She stepped onto the ship, the moonflower in her hands, its petals still glowing softly. The vessel's engines came to life, and slowly it lifted from the docking bay. As the silver-blue ship disappeared into the stars, Tom felt a strange mix of pride and loss. The station seemed quieter without her, but he knew this was only the beginning. Word of the human-Zirith cooperation spread quickly in the days that followed. The story of the injured princess, who had been shunned, and the human who had helped her, became a symbol of unity. Delegations from other worlds began to take a closer look at humanity, curious about this people who valued action over politics. Tom returned to his work in the maintenance halls, but sometimes, when he passed the window in the human sector, he would pause and look at the stars. Somewhere out there, Lyra was walking among the crystal spires again, no longer alone, and perhaps one day, their paths would cross again, under a sky filled with both crystal light and the simple, enduring glow of trust.